Hi, I'm nervous, and today we are in for another nervous breakdown. You'll notice things look a little bit differently behind me right now. I'm in the middle of transitioning to a new setup, and so right now things are just kind of in interim places while I figure out exactly what I'm doing with all of this. So it is what it is right now, and I just am here today because it's been a minute since I've actually sat down and thought about Five Nights at Freddy's, talked about Five Nights at Freddy's for any extended period of time, because the last month I've been covering other series. If you have not checked out those videos on Angel Hair or the Bunlops series, they are up, they are out, and I am pretty proud of them. Obviously, if you're just here for my FNAF content, you don't want to watch those other videos, that's totally fine. And taking into consideration the fact that YouTube may very well have just not served you those videos, I have been uploading for the past month. They are just not about Five Nights at Freddy's, so it's very possible that YouTube decided that you didn't want to watch them, but if you really want to watch them, they're there, and I'd love for you to check them out. All that aside, like I said, here today just to refresh myself, just to kind of get back into the groove of things before I try writing another Five Nights at Freddy's script. I just want to kind of get back into the rhythm of talking about Five Nights at Freddy's because frankly, I've been struggling. I have just had a million other things going on, really exciting things, like in my personal life, you know, just getting to see people, interacting with people, and then also some not so nice things that are just really hard for me to compartmentalize, like, you know, the state of things in America right now. It's hard to sit down and write about Five Nights at Freddy's when the world feels like it's on fire and everything is just happening one thing after the other. I won't linger on that because that's not what we're here for today, but I felt like I kind of need to just explain for my own self even why it has been so hard for me to talk or write or feel anything about Five Nights at Freddy's as of late. It was really nice to get to take a break, brain break from it all, but getting back into it's a chore in a way, and I don't want it to feel like a chore, so I'm taking all the pressure off, you know, and just talking to the camera, and we're just gonna have some fun because we do have two genuinely interesting and exciting things to talk about, and one is Escape the Pizzaplex, the latest in the interactive novels of Five Nights at Freddy's. If you can hear that noise, it's just Ciabatta sharpening her claws, so don't worry about it. And two is the FNAF 2 trailer that dropped, teaser trailer that dropped recently. I did a live stream where I reacted to it, so we've talked a bit about my feelings on that, but I'd kind of like to dive in. I don't think this is going to be a terribly long nervous breakdown because I really just have some things I want to say, and then they may end up being videos later or not. I don't know yet. More than likely, I will be doing a full video on Escape the Pizzaplex because I do think that there is a story to be told there for on my behalf that I haven't seen other people necessarily talk about. So I do think that I have something for that, but I don't know if I'll make a dedicated video on FNAF 2 movie until we get a full trailer. How's that for an intro? It took me 5 minutes to record. Let's see how long it is for you all. So today I think we'll start with my thoughts on the FNAF 2 movie because I don't have as much to say about that as I do Escape the Pizzaplex. So we'll get through that chunk and then we'll go into the bigger chunk that is the Escape the Pizzaplex conundrum? I don't know. Anyway, if you haven't seen the FNAF 2 teaser trailer, it's not long. It's like 50 seconds or something. I'll have it linked, right? Watch that because contextually you'll need it for what I'm about to say because I'm not about to play the trailer right now. I'm not a fool. But we got the trailer and genuinely, I'm excited. It looks like it's going to be well and away a better movie than FNAF 1. And that is no shade to FNAF 1, but there are a lot of valid criticisms about Five Nights at Freddy's the movie that I just, it's true. Like, it's not the most robust story. I think FNAF the movie is a great example of the idea that you can take a really long time to write the script and get it right and not have a total cluster of a movie, if you know what I'm saying. But it is still a movie that went through a lot of pre-production, and that is apparent. And in ways, I think it suffers because of that. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie, but I saw a lot of people really not like it, and I have to be able to go, if I look at this movie outside of my personal lens, can I be fair and critique it in that way? And the answer is yes. FNAF 2's trailer, and I know it's just a little teaser, looks like it is going to be a more complete horror film with obviously still more of that like campy stuff attached to it. Because I don't think you can have a FNAF movie without an element of camp due to the fact that we're working with haunted animatronics here. I'm really excited. I think it's great that it seems like they're doing a festival. I don't know if those scenes are in the past. It's very possible that they are, but I think that they're going to introduce the idea that a fall fest or some kind of carnival of sorts does come to this area and does have FNAF theming around it. Whether it only happened in the past or what, it to me seems like it must have happened in the past because Mike doesn't know about Freddy's. But at the same time, it could be a revival. But probably more interesting than all of that is that based on the teaser trailer alone, it seems like the major overarching plot of FNAF 2 is going to resemble the week before. Because based on what we see, a couple of things are clear. The animatronics from the FNAF 2 game and location, presumably, they could be changing things, right? I would presume that it's a different location because I feel like we would have seen the toys in the FNAF 1 movie location if they were all from the same pizzeria in this universe. This seems to be a separate place that they're going to, or that the animatronics are coming from. They very well could be coming just from that pizzeria all the way to our protagonist's town, or they could have sought them out. A lot of preamble just for me to say what the fact of the matter is they're leaving the Pizzaplex. They are roaming. Similarly to the week before, where the animatronics are, building up enough power or whatever to be able to leave the Pizzaplex. And in that book, when they do escape, they seem to be going for Ralph, the security guards, the phone guys, child, Coppelia, his daughter. They seem very centrally pointed towards that goal, nothing will get in their way. In the FNAF 2 movie trailer, it seems like the same thing is happening to Abby, which would make sense. They were after her in the first movie. The FNAF 1 animatronics were trying to make her one of them, so it would make sense that the through line continues, that the FNAF 2 animatronics are also very specifically interested in Abby. The other thing that I think is interesting about the fact that they're these resembling things is that we get this image, these two, I think, shots, I'll put them up, of a new character, mystery character, this blonde woman who has on headphones, it seems, and it's very possible that she could be our Bronwyn Light, who, if you've not read The Week Before, was an investigative reporter who was looking into the strange goings-ons of the Pizzaplex. So it's possible this could be an opening sequence too. I think it would be kind of fun if that was our new opening person, was a Bronwyn Light, if you will. It would be cool if she was also in the story, of course, but the way that it's framed reminds me of the way FNAF 1's cold open happened. Either way, it would be cool to see that the whole reason these animatronics get woken up, in a sense, or are reactivated, is because she is going in there trying to investigate because she knows about the disappearances and is looking into it years later, and they take care of business, so to speak. A few more things I'll point out that I think are interesting is we're definitely getting flashbacks in this movie, whether that is the carnival or not. There are going to be flashbacks to what I assume is Vanessa's childhood. I assume. Way, way, way early to tell, but we know that Vanessa kind of is the Mike of this story, and Mike is taking on sort of that pseudo role. It's a very, you know, they're doing different things, and I think that's great. Genuinely, I don't mean that sarcastically. But in the trailer, we get this one shot of this hallway with 4 doors, and at the end of the hallway is William Afton, presumably. It looks like Matthew Lillard, but it could very easily not be Matthew Lillard. I just think that it is. And this appears to be a nightmare sequence, so I'm not saying this is literally a flashback to Vanessa's childhood, but could be alluding to like the nightmares, right? The FNAF 4 ways of things, because that hallway, it's laid out the exact same with the 4 doors, and at the end, and it would be at the end where you would have Plush Trap is where William Afton is. It just looks very reminiscent. Like they are trying to evoke that imagery. So it is likely a dream sequence, but I think it is like a flashback in a dream sequence to Vanessa's past. Potentially very similarly to how in the first movie we saw Michael Afton having those flashbacks in his dreams, right? Where it is theoretically like something that happened or a close enough recreation of what happened, but not exactly the same, because he's trying to alter it somehow, which is really sad. Like these poor characters are dealing with some serious trauma. All 3 of them, all 3 of our main cast, Vanessa, Mike, and Abby, have some things to work through, I would say. And the reason that I bring that up is because it's not a necessary part of a horror film. And so I appreciate that we are kind of looking at these characters as people who have been hurt and are not just going through the motions of being threatened by the FNAF animatronics and running away and all those things and trying to save the day. They're also having interpersonal battles, interpersonal conflicts, and things that they are wrestling with from their past. But I'll just end these thoughts by saying I really just think it's very cool that we're going to get a FNAF movie where the animatronics are able to free roam, and I think it's a great set of animatronics to do that with, because I think it allows for a Withered reveal to happen late in the movie, where those animatronics are still at whatever pizzeria that they're trying to go to. I think there are still a lot of questions on the table, like why exactly are they after Abby beyond just putting her in one of the suits? Like, are they being driven by something William Afton told them to do from the Springlock suit? Like, are we gonna know that at all? Or are we going to find out that it's the vengeful spirit who has kind of activated and sent these animatronics on their quest? Because we know that Golden Freddy was genuinely interested in Abby, like seemingly completely separate from William Afton. So I found that interesting. And the last thing that I find very interesting is there is a shot of theoretically a Springlock suit that doesn't look like the one from FNAF 1 that William Afton put on and, you know, was spring-locked into. It looks like a different suit because the hand looks a little more rudimentary, but it's definitely not one of the toys. And it's really yellow to be any of the Withereds, in my opinion. So it's really interesting to consider, like, what it is. And so my go-to is that it's a Springlock suit, potentially an earlier version of Spring Bonnie or something. I don't know. It could be a completely separate thing. I don't know. But you look at it. You tell me what you think in the comments below. Overall, I'm very excited for FNAF 2, the movie. And I will definitely be seeing it opening night. And from there, we'll move on from the FNAF movie and into Escape the Pizzaplex. Now, if you have not read this book, obviously I want to urge you to do so, but the fact of the matter is there is a price barrier between you and the book. So I understand. Now, for what it's worth, there's also a price barrier between you and the games, but I think it's fair to say it's a lot easier to find a full playthrough of a game, right, than it is to find a full reading of a book or even just a digital copy that you don't have to pay for. So it's harder to find all of that lumped into one thing, especially an interactive novel, because you won't really be able to experience it the same way if you don't read it yourself. I say all that because I will be giving a brief summary, but I'm gonna be really brief. So if you want something more robust, I'll try to have something linked here, if not in the description. But Rytoast has a video, a podcast where they're going over it, and I'm sure other people have too. I just haven't watched them because I've just kind of been detoxing a little bit. I think just taking a back seat for a little bit on all of this stuff. So I have read through the entire thing. I've gotten all of the endings, and if there is a cheat ending, I didn't see it. It's probably in there somewhere, but I just didn't. So if there's one ending I didn't get, it's the cheat ending. Escape the Pizzaplex is about Cassie and Gregory's relationship pre-security breach. Cassie and Gregory are friends. Gregory is a bully, unfortunately. That's just the fact of the matter. Seems like he's already under the control of Dr. Rabbit and is playing with the programming of the animatronics, the glam rocks. If you are taking these books to be canon, or at the very least information for us, it is confirmed that Cassie is a human, which is great. Cassie and Gregory are hanging out at the Pizzaplex after hours. They're sneaking around to stay at the Pizzaplex after hours. This doesn't seem like the first time they've done this, but I don't know how much they've been doing it. I don't know if it maybe says in there, but I'm not 100% sure. Cassie and Gregory are going to play hide and seek. So your first night, your threat is hiding from Glamrock Freddy. He seems extra aggressive, more so than you're used to, more so than you would imagine. You start to get genuinely scared that something's wrong. Ultimately, Gregory has been hiding inside of Freddy the entire time, and it was just a prank to scare you. That kind of miffs you. You come back the next day. The next night, Gregory's like, okay, now we're gonna play with Monty, and Cassie does not want to do it. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna be in Freddy's, chest cavity, I promise, and we're not gonna scare you and all this other stuff. We're just playing like hide and seek like normal. Well, he actually did mess with Monty Gator's programming. So Monty Gator is aggressive as well. In this night, Monty Gator can seemingly kill you, or at the very least get you to a game over, whatever that looks like. So you have to avoid him long enough to get to Gregory and be like, what in Sam hell is going on here? Gregory will be like, yes, I changed his programming but I didn't mean for it to be like this. I'm so sorry. And Cassie is even more skeptical, but ultimately seems to kind of forgive Gregory. Cassie is very patient, very forgiving of Gregory, and it will be my first pause in the summary just to say I have seen and I do understand the complaints about Cassie's character being too soft and too forgiving, it's like she's letting these things happen to her, and it's very weird and difficult to believe that she would not only continue to come to the Pizzaplex day after day, but also that she would then go on to behave as she did in Ruin, where she would actually care about what happened to Gregory. I think this speaks more to Cassie's good nature than it does to some unbelievability. Some people are that forgiving. Some people are that, I don't want to even say naive, but just that trusting, just that able to look at somebody or something that has a bad track record and say, like, I see the good. I see the redeemable qualities in you. And we don't have their full history at this juncture, right? We don't know what it is that Cassie sees in Gregory necessarily. And I think that's fair. When you look at it, like, she's in a bad friendship. She doesn't need to be friends with this person who is hurting her over and over again. We see and understand that from the outside. But as someone who likes to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not saying that to like toot my own horn or anything, because we very much clearly see in the story that it can be a detriment to you. There has to be a level of kind of self-examination going, okay, I have to make a choice for me right now, and I have to stand up for myself and things. And we do see Cassie start to get in that lane of thinking. So I think that there are clear indicators that Cassie is just young and is still learning, and this is a lesson, and it's hard. It's so hard to learn. And I say that because I am someone who has struggled. I mean, immensely struggled to learn it. And in fact, have been in situations where I have decided, very much like Cassie in the story. I think I like the story so much because I relate so much to Cassie's whole inner turmoil over going like, why does this person just like, why won't they see that I'm trying to be a good friend, and then why won't they be a good friend back to me kind of energy. I've been in a situation where I have gotten to that point where I'm like, you know what? No more. I'm done associating with this friend. They're clearly not a friend. And then somehow still being pulled back. But being put in, in compromising situations because I just think like maybe I'm being too judgmental. Maybe I'm not giving this person an opportunity to redeem themselves. And what a shame it would be if nobody gave you an opportunity to redeem yourself when you really needed it because you really had changed. And Cassie strikes me very sincerely as the kind of person who wants to be the friend, the one person you can count on. Everything else has kind of written you off. I'm here because she sees potential. She sees potential in the animatronics in Ruin, and she wants to help them. She feels genuinely sorrowful over these, as far as she's concerned, probably, I would imagine, inanimate objects, because she understands that they've been put through something. They wouldn't act like this normally. So now that we made it through that tangent, night 3 really is when Cassie starts to stand up for herself. She doesn't want to stay at the Pizzaplex, but Gregory makes her stay. Ultimately, she ends up being there, and there is a new threat in the Pizzaplex called the Reagent. And the Regent, or Reagent, however you pronounce it, is this kind of chemical bot, right? So it's like a staff bot kind of thing, but it's got tubes for arms, or tubes on its arms. And those tubes spray out a chemical, a gaseous chemical that is supposed to eliminate any biological substances found in the Pizzaplex overnight. So kind of saying it's a cleaning bot, but like, oh my gosh, if you're a human and you're at the Pizzaplex after hours and this thing comes for you, it's game over, okay? Literally within the book, it's called a game over. It's unclear if this gas will genuinely kill you if you inhale enough of it. If you manage to outmaneuver this reagent bot long enough, Roxy does come and save you. And since you now have Roxy, you feel, as Cassie, a lot more protected and okay. But the fact of the matter is, you still get gas, no matter what. The reagent chemical gets to you, and you lose a whole day. So Roxy saves you, but you don't wake up until the next night, night 4. So on night 4, you have Roxy by your side, you're continuing to avoid the reagent, and you see Gregory get mauled by Glamrock Freddy. I think you're like on a staircase or something, and Gregory is like out in the open and gets attacked by Glamrock Freddy. And so you're so upset and freaked out, but it turns out that was just a prank too, and that Gregory got Roxy in on it. And this really upsets Cassie because she trusted Roxy. She goes upset, cries, and hides in a janitor closet for the whole rest of the day. She goes into the closet, sleeps there, and stays there the whole next business day of the Pizzaplex until the nighttime, when Roxy comes to the closet because she wants to apologize for how she behaved. She doesn't fully understand why she thought it would be fun for Cassie, because she knows she should know better. And ultimately she scans her programming and finds out that Gregory has tampered with it, so much so that it's also set to, after a certain amount of time, force Roxy to attack Cassie. So the night 5, your goal is to fix Roxy's programming. Ultimately, if you do everything right, there's a lot of game overs if you don't do everything right, but if you do everything right, you can reverse Roxy's programming, so she is completely on your side. But You also find out that the reagent has been reactivated. So you got through last night, but now the reagent hasn't been reactivated, and now it is seeking you specifically out. It's specifically seeking out Cassie as a target this time. So you have to find a way to outmaneuver the reagent, and in the best ending, right, the 3-star theoretically canon ending, you eliminate the reagent, you get out. You tell Roxy, okay, I have to leave now, and Roxy's kind of solemn, but she understands and says bye and hopes you'll come back. And then yay, credits roll, confetti on the screen, yay, shift complete, you know what I mean? And you also find a security clearance card that gives you the ability to go back, much like in all these other interactive novels. You can go back and get a new ending with this new thing. But it's very interesting to me because by the time you finish the story, by the time you get the clearance card, you've gotten what I would consider as the canon ending. There's debate over whether or not this story really is canon, or if it's just meant to give us hints, clues, information about what's happening in the games. I would venture to say that it's probably canon, but the big thing that stops me from that is the fact that Vanessa, does not show up at all. I don't know how long the Pizzaplex in the games is open, but it's odd to me for Gregory to be under the control of Glitchtrap without any trace of Vanny. I won't say it is impossible for Gregory to become Dr. Rabbit before Vanessa becomes Vanny, but it's odd because the therapy CDs from Security Breach would suggest that the two were simultaneously brought under the control of Glitchtrap, and it would make more sense for Gregory to have been lured in by Vanessa, her presence. So if this is canon, it would potentially be rewriting that, or at least kind of fudging the numbers or muddying the waters on when exactly Vanessa switched from working for the game company to working security at the Pizzaplex. I was always under the impression that happened before Gregory was Dr. Rabbit. But it's fair to say that Vanny has been done incredibly wrong in this franchise. Not just as some kind of character and I'm just oh, I just loved her and you did her wrong, but just from a storytelling and gameplay standpoint, an overall, function of introducing someone at all, it's you've done a bad job. I mean no harm. I'm not saying that there weren't reasons that I don't know because I'm just me for her story being shifted, changed, minimized, but it was poorly executed. Guys, what was the point? I love her personally, and I think a lot of other people did too. So if something went wrong during Security Breach, I feel like the reshift or the shift back should have allowed her to be finished, her story to be fully fleshed out and included in the games in some capacity. And while I know we've kind of all had this discussion before, or many of us have had this discussion before about why Vanny was underutilized or what the heck happened, I really think after reading Escape the Pizzaplex and thinking about the early days of Security Breach when it was first being announced that this book is what Security Breach used to be. Escape the Pizzaplex was Gregory's goal, and he was lured there by Vanny instead of Gregory luring Cassie. If you go back and watch the teaser trailer, you can hear Vanny saying things that sound like what Gregory is saying in Escape the Pizzaplex. So whether or not Escape the Pizzaplex is canon, I'm not arguing canonicity right now. I'm just saying just what it is, whether it's part of the games now or not, that story is what I believe Security Breach was gonna be. If Escape the Pizzaplex isn't canon, it's still giving us information about how somebody might be brought into the Pizzaplex and moved under the influence of Glitchtrap or used for Remnant. We'll just put it that way. I still want to believe, even though Vanny's not in the book, what we could have gotten for Security Breach didn't not happen. It's possible what is happening to Cassie in Escape the Pizzaplex was in effect what happened to Gregory. If Vanny got Gregory in, maybe using those same things, those same tactics. So I can get you in the Pizzaplex after it's closed and we can play games. Kind of similar to the energy of VIP and the way the pig was like, I can show you things you've never seen before, all in an attempt to kind of get the kids in a back room, right? Get the kids somewhere where no one else can see them and do something, like turn them under the control of Glitchtrap. So that's what I think I'm gonna make a video on and really try to explore that avenue further. Otherwise, I really did like this book. The deaths were repetitive. It just made it less enjoyable to read, like get to that point. Like when you get to a game over in an interactive novel, it's always going to be kind of like a, dang it, now I have to go back and like try that again. So it would be nice if there was like at least a little bit of payoff that you're getting like a different description of what happens to you. And it doesn't always have to be a death. In VIP, there's a game over that is just you have a normal, boring day at the Pizzaplex because you listen to your little brother and then you go home. And there's a number of others that are really, really interesting where Ike is still missing when you leave the Pizzaplex. I think that's so cool. I think they could have done more with Escape the Pizzaplex in that respect. What we got, I'm not mad at. And I think part of the reason is just that I identify with Cassie as a character. I understand her inner struggles and I feel for her because she's had such a strange history with this building and with, you know, Gregory, and she's a strong female presence in FNAF and I appreciate that. If people are upset that as a strong female presence she's presented as somebody who has a lot of empathy and forgiving traits to her, and I think if you prefer a different kind of female presence in the FNAF franchise, that's so fair. But at the same time, I really like the direction that they're going with Cassie, and I do think that we have had in the past that boss babe energy kind of with Baby, pre-Scrap Baby, just Baby. It's ultimately fair to say that FNAF doesn't have a whole lot of strong women in it, and when they do have the semblance of a woman character, she gets killed off or underutilized, or something like Scrap Baby happens to her where all of a sudden she's like a subservient being again instead of a more self-interested individual. It is a fair criticism to levy against the franchise as a whole, and I won't step back from that. I think the FNAF movie has the potential to do something different with Vanessa, and I appreciate that, but the criticisms make sense. I think that the repetitive death criticism of Escape the Pizzaplex makes sense. I think that having reservations about Cassie's character motivations makes sense, even if I personally have a different perspective, I still see where people are coming from. And then I think that it's fair that it's kind of timeline confused. I think it would be nice if these things were a little more obvious to us. When VIP came out and then week before came out, I was like, I think that it's very fair to just use these books as canon, or view these books as canon and just be like, okay, this is a new series and these ones are for sure canon. And then we got Return to the Pit. And I can only view that story as canon under specific circumstances that not everybody agrees with, where you don't think that there's literal time travel happening and there's just like an agony pit of sorts. And the moment that Oswald goes into the pit, if you will, that from there until the last page, the last thing is in the pit itself, and he does not get out. Unfortunately. That's the only way that I can look at it like that. And now we have this. I don't know. Like, I think that there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense to just be literally canon. I hear the arguments against, I'm not even necessarily against it not being canon, but I don't think it should be viewed as just a story. And one more thing before I wrap, there has been discussion around the Escape the Pizzaplex book actually helping my argument for Remnantplex. It's really just because it seems like Gregory is like farming agony from Cassie before he theoretically ultimately gets her with the reagent gas and takes her down to the scooping room underneath the Pizzaplex. We don't see anything specifically say that must happen, must be what's happening, or if it's true that the reagent is just a really dangerous threat that Gregory seems to have potentially some control over, and I'm super stoked about that. So that might have to, I don't think I'm gonna make a dedicated video just about that. I'm just gonna remake the Remnantplex video, and I'm gonna really put my all into it and try to be like, guys, this is happening. I just can't decide if I want that to come out before or after Secret of the Mimic, because Secret of the Mimic might have some more evidence for me. So, I don't know. I may do like a final predictions Secret of the Mimic video where I talk about predicting Remnantplex, just so that way if Secret of the Mimic gives us hints, I can, come back and do that. But I don't think that Secret of the Mimic would outright confirm it, but there's just this like little bug in my brain that's like, what if it happens and then it gets confirmed and nobody saw your theory? I don't know. I have issues. You guys know how it goes on the Nervous Breakdown. I always find myself in a world of talking about more esoterically my thoughts on being a person on the internet, but ultimately I enjoyed both pieces of media that we got during the month of April. I enjoyed being able to experience them without the pressure of immediately turning them into content. That felt good. I know that's not always how things are going to get to go on this channel, but I really am, just to say at the end here, I really am trying to allow myself to branch out more into other subjects. And I won't linger on all of the reasons why, but I felt lighter in ways, getting to get outside of the FNAF box, if you will, and kind of explore some other things. So I hope that you're here for that. If you're not, then you're not. And that's just the way that it is. Again, I'm not going to take it any kind of way. I'm going to keep doing me no matter what, because this is my channel. But you can become a part of the nervous system by hitting the subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What you think about the new trailer, about Escape the Pizzaplex, about Cassie and the way that her character has developed. Let me know if you agree that the way that the reagent gas works seems like something that would lead or aid in the ability of either Vanny or Gregory or some combination, or who knows, to take the body of a victim and somehow translate that into Remnant with the scooping room. There's like a much larger discussion to be had about how the scooper in the current modern Pizzaplex works, and again, I think that's something that whenever I remake my Remnantplex video, I really do want to go into that specifically a little bit more and just be like, look, this is not the same scooper. I don't think they work the same. And here's the evidence as to why I don't believe they work the same. I'm not just pulling that out of my butt in order to support my theory. I think that there is evidence based on the design and based on the way that the room is set up, that it's just clearly a different process. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of The Nervous Breakdown. I appreciate you sticking around, and as I said, if you would like to become a part of the nervous system, hit subscribe. I upload videos every week and go live on Wednesdays and Fridays, but if you can't wait, there are videos on the screen right now just for you. Okay, bye!